तुम्हारी पग में हूँ, तुम्हारी पग में हूँ, मारी पग में, मारी पग में हूँ, 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 मारी पग में
Welcome everyone. I thought a little opening music would be nice. I found that when I was looking for royalty-free music I could use as a little intro to my podcast, and so the beginning of it I use as an intro to my podcast. But I thought it would make a nice, unusual opening chant for this today, since it's a combination. It's a Vajrayana Buddhist mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, done by a obviously Vedic group that creates music for people in any tradition. So, welcome wherever and whenever you are, since this will be recorded and people can listen to it whenever. Thank you for joining Paula Davis, Timo Speckens, Michael Ray, and me in this experiment in spiritually launching a book. Let's take a moment to dedicate any good we do here today to the benefit of all beings without exception. I want to say a word about a phrase that you won't find in my book because I didn't yet fully understand it. You can you can look for an expanded version of my book later this year with everything I've learned since finishing the book. You know, it's all a learning process. Writing it was a learning process, and having finished it is another learning process. But the term I want to talk about is Vajra pride. Vajra pride, V-A-J-R-A, pride. The word Vajra, of course, in Sanskrit means diamond or thunderbolt. A diamond is incredibly strong, almost indestructible, and it's also clear and brilliant. A thunderbolt is powerful and transformative. So Vajra pride isn't about your everyday ego feeling good about its latest accomplishment. It's about connecting with a deeper, unshakable confidence in your true nature, which in Vajrayana Buddhism is seen as inherently pure, wise, and compassionate. Buddha nature. Although I wasn't familiar with the term, I mean, I'd seen it once or twice, but I hadn't registered. And I don't even remember what it was I read recently or listened to recently where I learned, oh, that's what Vajra pride is. Anyway, so I wasn't familiar with the term when I wrote the book, but I realized that what I tried to do in the New Middle Way is instilling Vajra pride in all of us. You know, if you start out learning to play a musical instrument or writing a book, certain that you'll fail, you're not going to get very far. I realized as I wrote the book that I'm encouraging readers to find their confidence in their Buddha nature, what I now understand to be Vajra pride. Similarly, if we try to make the world better by seeing only its failures, we'll fail to make it better. Since I realize that I live in a pure land, everything I experience is beautiful. As Mingyur Rinpoche says, if we transform our minds, everything we experience is transformed. That's the idea behind this celebration, a middle way to the Pure Land. My newish friend, I stumbled earlier when I was kind of practicing this to myself, and I think it sounded like I said my Jewish friend, but actually it's my newish friend, the spiritualist and medium Paula Davis, helped me formulate the concept. And before we turn, she's going to talk for a little first about the book and have some questions for me, but and then we'll follow that up with Timo and Michael and some more meditation. But before we turn the spotlight over to Paula, let's just take a moment for the prayer known as the Four Immeasurables. May all beings have happiness and its causes. May all beings be free from suffering and its causes. May all beings remain unseparated from a supreme joy that is beyond all sorrow. May all beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, and bias. Paula, if you would unmute and take over for a while.
Yeah, thank you, Mel. What a wonderful introduction. Um, it brought peace and even a touch of that intelligence of your book within it, and I really appreciate that. But what I'd like to do is to get into a little bit of the guts of the book. And when you get into the guts of the book, you get into the guts of Mel Pine a little bit. And that's kind of where I'd like to go. And I'd like to start, if you don't mind, Mel, because Mel has no idea what I'm going to ask, what I'm going to say. And I just purposely kept it that way. But I want to start with an introduction as to how I first was introduced to Mel. And we were both in a program called Preparing to Die with Andrew Holochek. And of course, like a lot of groups, there is a Facebook group that we have together. And in the Facebook group, they encourage you to introduce yourself, a little bit who you are. And so I introduced myself, and then I went on to, look at the introductions of fellow cohorts. And to give you a little flavor of Mel, this was the first thing that I learned about Mel. I hope you don't mind me reading this private Facebook group information, but it says, "Hello, this is from Mel. Hello, dear cohort. At the start of 2024, my health wasn't great, and I was in a winding down phase. I read Andrew Holochek's book, Preparing to Die, I'm adding that in May, virtually attended his blissful Pure Lands retreat that opened me to a rejuvenation phase. I resumed my writing career and began a blog for people with one toe in the water of Buddhism. That, along with other aspects of my practice, improved my health. Now, I'm preparing to die by writing a book as I maintain the blog. I'll turn 79 in May and have set a release date in mid-September for the book. While I'm prepared to die, I'm also hoping to reach my 80th birthday with the book, my life's work, out there and reaching people. I thought the Preparing to Die course would be a good companion as I go along." That was my introduction. And I responded say, wow, I like this guy. He's a straight shooter. This is what's going on. And I responded saying, I'd love to learn more about you as this course goes along. So that's a little introduction about Mel, from Mel. Now, as I'm gonna ask a few questions. I'm actually gonna give a couple of quotes from the book as well. In this book, what would you say the number one reason someone who is dipping their toe into Buddhism can gain from reading your book?
The message not to read too many books. The message that it's an experiential learning process. For me, I think I try to make clear that it's a combination of life experience and teachings. What you learn from life and what you learn from teachers and what you learn from the spiritual world, the heritage, the nature, the heritage, whatever heritage you feel. And it's not an intellectual process. So we use words, we use stories, I use jokes, humor, and stories about my own life. And so what I want them to take and what I'd like them to take away is you have the Buddha nature within you. Relax and let it be. Don't try to study it to death.
Right. Exactly. Because what I can say personally is I was reading the book, and I've shared with you before. I work with people that have lost loved ones, and they're not in a pure land. And they're not in a pure land many, many years later. But you found through your experiences, and we'll kind of, if you don't mind, talk about a couple of them as we move forward. You found a pure land in spite of circumstances. And you would say that it's the Buddha nature in you that can get you through that process. And it's the practices of knowing that you're a Buddha that get you through those circumstantial times. To your point, people look at the circumstances today and say, wow, we're really going in a wrong direction. And you have to depend on something. What is it that you depend on as you move forward through that and in that?
Yeah, I would go back a bit and just modify one word that you used. You said that I realized that I live in a pure land or came to that belief or whatever in spite of the experiences. And I think, what was. We can't undo there are too many to list. But we can't undo the traumas that I and other people face in their lives. What we can do is use it all as a teaching experience. Use it all. I mean, to me, I guess that's another one of the lessons I'd like. I'm sorry, I'm breaking out laughing because I had the world's worst kindergarten teacher. She was obnoxiously horrible and mean and negating. And in the acknowledgments, if you buy if you get the book or borrow somebody's or whatever and go to the acknowledgments, I begin by thanking her because everybody is a teacher. And she taught me that the world isn't kind all the time. So I think everything we experience, everything we do, everything we hear, every person we meet is an experience for learning. And as horrible it is as it is to have the sudden death of a son, as horrible as it is to have the sudden murder of a dear friend and mentor, as horrible it is as it is to learn that your cousin killed his parents, your uncle and aunt, uh, as horrible as it is to get a phone call that your sister and brother-in-law both were killed in a car crash. I mean, those things are all horrible. Nobody wants them, but they're all opportunities to learn. And I think if we go through life with equanimity, not allowing them to shatter us forever. I mean, of course, we're going to be shattered for some period of time, but not to live life as the victim of them, but to live in a way of learning from them. I think I don't remember what the question was, but that's
Yeah.
the
Well, you're touching on my next question. You say in your book, this book is a filament of my soul. It's a filament of my soul. So when you say that the book is a filament of your soul, what parts of your inner life, your joys, your wounds, your awakenings, are you most vulnerable in sharing with us here? Now, you shared a couple of things of some situations that occurred within your life. But where do you feel most vulnerable? And at this point, do you still have that vulnerability as you prepare to die?
boy, that's a good question and a profound one. I don't think we ever get over all of it. Uh, and that's another thing that I try to say in the book, or that I hope to convey, and I feel it for myself that um, I don't need to be concerned that I'm not a perfect Buddha who, who can rise above everything and I'm omniscient and beyond being hurt. But so of course we bear a lot of things, and I think for me, I was born with, and this is something I don't explain in the book. It's kind of fundamental. Maybe it's implied, but I was a late child at a time when children were not considered blessings, especially not to their mothers. And so I was born with a sense of being an imposition. And a lot of my life, my cry from my life is, I am not an imposition. I'm going to make my life worthwhile. I'm going to do something with it. And obviously, one needs to grow out of being a slave to things like that. And I think that's the cutting of attachments that should, cut that attachment. Um, but it's never going to leave me entirely. And when I do talk in the book, and I often talk about letting go of my ego. And so I no longer feel like I have to prove it, but it's not gone. I still, obviously I wouldn't, well, again, the story that is in the book and that I've told in the blog is about my friend who's, I won't I won't try to retell the whole story, but Timo will know who I'm talking about. Nicole, or maybe not, but anyway, Nicole is a bodhisattva who she's a professor, a law professor who, or at least at the time that I knew her well, when we were both attending the same retreats, taught law in San Francisco 6 months a year, and then took her students to Haiti to work there for 6 months of the year. And after a retreat one time, I asked her about ego, how you separate out your ego needs from. And she looked at me and she said, if it wasn't for ego, I'd never get on a plane. Don't worry about it. So, yeah, I mean, or another way of saying it is the ego, a little bit of ego that supports a sense of self and a sense of wanting to do good is not a bad thing.
Beautiful. Wonderful. So I'm going to read something that I read in the book that I was quite impressed with. It says, and I'm paraphrasing this, I'm not going to exactly, but you know how to write and you know how to blog, so go ahead and use those skills to manifest your bodhicitta, the reduce the suffering, right? And what did it feel like on a heart level to receive what I would say is a bit of a divine commission when you were preparing for death? Was there a lot of grief in this point or awe at that turning point in your life?
If for people who haven't read the book, this was a moment year and a half ago. Well, no, a little over a year ago, when I was doing a meditation and incorporating Buddha Amitabha, the Buddha of the Pure Land, who I had adopted as my yidam. And in Vajrayana Buddhism, you engage in guru yoga, deity yoga, where you meditate and absorb uh, your symbol of Buddhahood. Um, and it felt that, and it was at that moment that something inside of me said, "Shit, Mel, you know how to write, you know how to blog, you haven't been doing that, and you know you can do more to manifest your bodhicitta." And it felt like, ooh, wowie zowie, that's right. Um, and that's what I want to do. So it felt wonderful, really. I'd been sitting there going, oh, I'm old and I'm tired and I'm too weak to go fly somewhere and feed children or help earthquake victims and well, I can't do much to manifest my bodhicitta, you know, but I went, oh, yes, I can. So it was really a glorious moment for me.
Yeah, and I think this is the result of that and the big gift that you can offer. So it offered, I'll have to say personally, the book really inspired me. It really did. So I'm glad you listened to the Amitabha. It's wonderful. Okay, so uh, let's reference the Buddhist hot dog joke in the book because there is a lot of humor in your book. It's funny. It's heartfelt. But it's also funny. So, with reference to the hot dog joke, you state that change comes from within. I wonder if you would share a little bit about the hot dog joke. And on a spiritual level, how has your understanding of inner change evolved through personal loss and the death of your son in particular, which is, I would say, a lot of people's biggest fear is losing a child.
The that joke is a good illustration of my writing process. It is not structured and thought out. I sit down and start writing, and something flows through me. And a lot of artists, well, I'm calling myself an artist now, but I guess I am now. A lot of artists, visual artists, writers, say that they sit down to do their art and something flows that may not really be them. And that's the way I feel. There may be some of Thomas, my son, that's flowing through me because he was very creative. There may be some Amitabha that's flowing. I don't know what it is, and I don't I don't feel a need to analyze it. It just is. But when I sit down to write, I don't go, oh, this is where I'm going to go with that. I start writing and, oh, this joke appeared. I say, oh, yeah, I can fit this joke in. And so it's a well-known joke. I'm laughing because there's a wonderful video out there of a newscaster interviewing the Dalai Lama and telling him the joke and laughing and thinking the joke is funny. The Dalai's looking at him. He doesn't get the joke because he doesn't understand enough English idioms to understand make me one with everything. But anyway, it's a great video. If you can find it, it's very funny. But the joke is, of course, the Buddha says to the hot dog vendor, make me one with everything. And everybody knows that joke. But the second part of it is the Buddhist hands the hot dog vendor a $20 bill, which the hot dog vendor pockets. And the Buddha says, where's my change? And the hot dog vendor says, change comes from within. And what I realized as that joke flowed out of me is it fits perfectly into the message of the book, that you don't look anywhere else. You don't have to read another book, attend another. I mean, yes, reading books, and I'm not against reading books or attending retreats, but they're not. What's key is coming to terms with what's inside and accepting and getting to know what's inside. And so the change comes from within. The change comes from recognizing and resting in your Buddha nature. That's really what brought me to Vajrayana after 20 years, 30, whatever period of time it was. I get confused about times. I guess 30 years of other forms of Buddhism. They all say, oh, yeah, you have the Buddha within and you're going to reach it in some lifetime in the future. And in my meditations, I really felt like, oh, I'm not that far from it. It's there. It's not that hard. If you understand, if you get the basic messages. And then when I found Vajrayana Buddhism, that's what it's all about. The Buddha within, and learning to rest into it. It's not something you just do. I can't snap my fingers anymore, but it's not something you can just do. It takes meditation, but one can learn to find that strength, that holiness within oneself.
Beautiful. So in chapter 4, acquire a peaceful spirit and thousands around you will be saved. This is a quote from Saint Seraphim of Sarov, right? And you had stated your purpose, your goal is to reduce the suffering of others. Do you ever feel the burden, like there's a certain level of burden of carrying peace for others? And on a scale of 1 to 10, being realistic, what are the chances others can achieve the peace that you have, the feeling of being in a pure land as you do?
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I think it's about an 8. I mean, some people, won't get there. Uh, and it doesn't need to take 40 years that it took me, but it takes a serious commitment, um, some serious self-searching. Um, but I don't think it's difficult. It's a mindset. Um, and what was the first part of that?
Do you feel the burden? Do you feel
Oh,
the
burden.
burden of
Yeah.
carrying that piece for others?
No, I mean it just feels so good to be there myself that, I just want to like I say in my little blurb that people read if they come looking for my blog on Substack, they'll get a little blurb that says something like took me a long time, but I found the Pure Land, come join me there. It's nice, come join me.
Yeah.
And why don't we hold off for a while because we can return back to Q&A. Also, if any of the participants have Q&A, use the Q&A or the chat if there's anything you want to ask or raise a hand. And why don't I ask Timo to introduce a period of awareness.
Hey, thank you, Mel. And thank you for inviting me because being able to be the expression of bodhicitta in the world, inspired by how you do that so beautifully and explicitly as we can experience with how you have been keeping yourself in the world and for a long time and now culminating in this book. So to be part of that is something I really am grateful for, and to be with this little team here to hold you through this. So thank you for inviting me to help us hold our minds a little open and our hearts open. So why don't you all that are here, take a beautiful deep breath and breathe out with your mouth open a little bit and just decontract. I want to say a few more things, but not waiting for a specific meditation. The way that Mel is expressing himself in the world is the outflowing of concentric circles of a wish to be a healing presence in this world. Starts by healing our own hearts and minds. So we put the oxygen mask of healing on our own face first before we just let it flow out, and we part of this healing. Yeah. So the beautiful thing is once we start opening our minds and hearts to our true essence, a good death starts right now. So please be the boundless, loving, luminous presence of timeless awareness knowingly. So boundless, because there's enough room for all these universes to arise. Loving, because our hearts and minds welcome, and timeless awareness welcomes absolutely all experience. And also it has a tendency to start expressing itself more lovingly, as we feel now how that culminated from a lifetime of tenderness in Mel's life, as this book. Yeah. And luminous, because timeless awareness shines the light of knowing on all experience and upon itself. So just feel in for a moment as a backdrop to all your thoughts, this space in which thoughts arise and dissolve. If you look kind of in between all those thoughts, feelings, emotions, and perceptions, there is this openness, and it's radiant, right? It has this existential quality. It shines with presence, with I amness. And often when the world is a bit painful, we have this feeling, I want to transcend this, get me out of here. But one of the most beautiful pointing out instructions in these traditions is in Vajrayana and other Tibetan and other Buddhist wisdom instructions is just as you are. So being that openness, which is not a blank state, just feel into that bodhicitta potentiality. There is like this shining for this wish of happiness, the wish for happiness that all beings carry, which then matures for maybe certain practices or maturity or whatever life lessons were as the wish for happiness of all beings. Yeah, that's why we're here together, to support Mel in his wish for happiness of all beings. We are so much more than the habitual arisings and expressions of our psychology and our historical traumas. Right here, right now, on our seat, shining brightly. So, some of you have heard me say this prayer lately because I really like it, like a little bit of a dedication in my 15 or 20 minutes of me being allowed to hold you within the stream of Mel's bodhicitta expression in the world. And Shantideva, who lived like 1400 years ago, said, "May I be the protector to all those without protection, a leader for those that journey, a boat, a bridge, a passage for those desiring the further shore of awakening. May the pain of every living creature be completely taken away. May I be the doctor and the medicine. May I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. Just like space and the great elements like the earth. May I always support life of all boundless creatures. And until they pass away, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of various beings that reach to the limits of space." Let's take another breath together. Let's maybe allow your awareness to descend into your heart. And then notice it's not confined by your heart or even your anatomy. Just flow out and saturate the space all around with that radiant bodhicitta, that radiant wish for happiness. Saturate the space all around and the space all around knowingly with the expression of all that you are in this interconnected sea of beings. What is this wish for happiness of all beings? Is that we discover from holding our minds this wide open and our hearts that love, peace, and happiness are ever present in our heart. Not a gleeful, laughing state, but more an absence of lack, being complete. At the center of a tender, dynamic life. holding our minds this open is an expression of compassion. There are many types of creatures in the world that still only can express aggression or fear or both, but not love. Love is a much later evolutionary development in our brain structure and psychology and in the collective karmic psyche. And in a way is so tender and fragile. So we promise to deeply care for it. We must very deliberately nurture love. And in that spirit, we gather together in this expression of love of Mel in the world, who realized that in his preparation to let go of this world, he needed to share everything that he became free from concern, not without concern, but free. So being the presence of awareness knowingly equals love. So the most profound meditation is not something we do, it is what we are. I am the resonance of compassion in the world. And maybe sometimes I have fallen asleep within my own competence. Here together, we vow to stay awake in our bodhicitta competence and express it. That's why we're here together today. Let's take a last collective refreshing breath. It's decontracted, open, so your heart essence may shine. Let's take this moment now, not to conclude, but to let this moment open, to let Mel's offering ripple through our own hearts, through our subtle histories and nervous system, until something quiet inside of us recognizes itself. Yeah, do you recognize your essence? All you have to do is feel the resonance in your own heart. May Mel's inspiration not end here, but reverberate and resonate into how we love, how we listen, and how we live. Thank you so much for allowing me to resonate this explicitly too, inspired by Mel's life force, just generating all this beauty. Thank you.
Thank you, Timo. Ah. Join me in a relaxing breath. Ah. Without any embarrassment about making noise on the out breath. Ah. With each breath, we can get deeper into relaxation, deeper into touch with our pure awareness. We can relax into our Buddha nature. As I was thinking about this and the theme of a middle way to heal the world, a middle way to a pure land, of course, there are less spiritual and more material needs out there. And Paula was just talking about the quote about generating loving compassion by being who we are. And of course, there's an element to of other forms of generosity. And so I thought, as a gesture, I prepared a few charities that I particularly like. And I don't know if I just sent them or not. Here, let me try again. Yeah, I sent them. So there are, a few charities there. If you are moved to contribute some dana in return to this event that we did for free, those are three. Is that three? One, two, three. Oh, and then I have a more capitalistic one as the fourth, but there are three acts of generosity there that I care about, and anybody here today can exercise some dana in return, or as a display of gratitude for what we each have and what we've been able to share. I had an addendum to one of my answers to Paula. And Paula, you're an excellent interviewer, but about any burden about sharing my bodhicitta, every moment of writing my blog and every moment of writing my book was inspired by that bodhicitta, that desire to help liberate others from suffering. Once the book was completed, and I had spent a lot of money on research and graphics and stuff, I began to think in terms of, yes, we're going to spread this message and make the book successful so it reaches more people, but also so it reimburses me for the money I've spent and maybe even contributes a little to the Carol and Mel Retirement Fund. So there's the note on the end there that you can also buy the book, send one as a present to friends, subscribe to my blog. And that's part of the complete honesty that I like to be completely open. And yes, they're. Oh, and that's the part that's maybe a little burdensome is getting a little materialistic about it, but it sort of comes with the territory, so that I don't cheat Carol out of a happy continuation of life, running out of money after I'm gone. But anyway, with that, Michael? Why don't you bring us to a little native wisdom?
Right. Thank you, Mel. Thank you, Paula. And Timo, thank you. Uh, I really appreciate being here. It's been really wonderful to be with you all, and to know you, Mel, and the classes, and you leading some meditation there all this time, and your wisdom that you bring. And so I'm really uh, have so much gratitude for it becoming a manifested book, and I thank you for asking me to be here. It's really an honor. I appreciate that. And I wanted to bring a little bit of my story, a little bit of, you asked Native American. I have uh, entered the Native American way through Sufism. And I always had as a kid kind of this thought, because I grew up very Christian. Not, it's the village that I was born in was very small, maybe 300 houses, and I'm probably overextending it, and a huge church. To me, it was huge. It's really not that huge now, but and people, I would walk in and people would be crying for the death of Christ, and how they're are not adequate in life, how they're not coming to, it's shame. I mean, it's really, it's a shame that was brought there. At the same time, it's a lot of tribes live there, around there. I've looked it up, and it said at least 25 tribes were in the vicinity. This is in Mexico. And so I was confused about that. And at the same time, it helped me when my mom left. My mom left to come to America because my dad had left earlier and he never came back. And so my mom took the responsibility of coming to the United States. And I cried so much when she left. It's really hard to separate from your mom. And my uncles and aunts took care of me, but they sent me off with my uncle. I remember the train gave me this little prayers, St. Michael's prayer to say daily, and they said 30 times and you're good, or 2 weeks. And man, I did it like maybe 1,000 times. I just was so scared of being away from home, and going to someplace new. Anyway, but my one of the thoughts that stuck with me as a kid, especially as I grew up in a Texas neighborhood, that people were wanting, that there was only one way. I mean, very, that if you don't follow this way, then you're not going to go to this land, this special land of heaven, or whatever one wants to call it. And I thought to myself, and there must be other ways, I mean. And then my dear relative at the grocery store where I worked went to Japan and brought back a big Buddha, and I remember it made such an impression. He goes, this is the whole side of the world that this is it, Buddha. And I'm going, the little fat guy? Yeah, that's him, And so there's just little seeds that went in there. And then I started thinking that what was really important is, and my mom taught me that, is how you treat people and how people treat you, and that, are they compassionate, are they kind, or generosity? Forget about tradition or religion or whatever. How are they being with you? How are they being with their friends? And how are they being with other people? And so that's kind of what brought me to Sufism. and Sufism one of the things that attracted me to them is that they honored all traditions, and so I was home. You know, it's and they brought Native American to do a workshop and to teach us about Native American ways. The Sufis also had an order called the Sirat order, which is the farmer taking care of the land, And so I was really enjoyed that. And in that workshop, they brought this man named Beautiful Painted Arrow. uh, and he taught ceremonies, so he took us through ceremonies. And what I loved about him is he took us, the first ceremony early in the morning is to bring up the sun. And so he did a song and drumming, and he said, this is the way I was taught. And then I was led to a song. So this is my song, and you can bring up the sun with your own song, And I thought, yes, that's good, especially since I can't sing or do that. I'll have my own words and my own way of bringing up the sun. Anyway, that weekend I met my wife, and my wife really, she didn't come in through the Sufi, she came in through herself. She took herself there. And somehow we wound up following this person, which led to my wife being adopted by to make a long story short, by a Navajo woman who was the mom of this person, Navajo, we met. And that started a 40-year of going to the reservation, going through their ceremonies, and experiencing the unconditional love for us, just being adopted, my wife being adopted as a daughter by this woman who was caretaker of the sacred mountain is it's a real honor, and they take it seriously. You are now family. And so she now had 5 brothers, and I am the brother-in-law. I don't get carried in by her. I have to earn my own family. Anyway, so that started a what do you call it? A relationship with nature, and ceremonies that are natural. But there is a book out, and I don't have it out here, which it writes about the relationship between the Navajo and Tibetan Buddhism. And it talks about the 4 winds, all the things that they're related. They do sand paintings as well. It's a beautiful book because it has prayers from both traditions that are related. So I thought I would concentrate on a little bit on that, and I'm always getting told by my Native relatives that we really need to connect to the elements, the mountains, the trees, the water, the air, and so they really like it when we connect with them and express ourselves to them, and you can see it if you ever go to a ceremony, which is some are all night ceremonies, and there's a fire. You walk in and there's a flame in the center, and that flame is talking all night and being with you all night. And I'm, like other people at the beginning, was very afraid of the fire because it's very powerful, And when my brother, who's gone on out to the other side, said, Michael, you just got to talk to it. Just got to talk to it. It's your relative. It's just, do a little prayer to it. Say thank you. And he said, all the elements right now need a thank you. They need attention in that way. I will. I'm going to read a poem, a Navajo poem, where they talk about their their main area is New Mexico, Arizona, a little bit of Utah, and they have 5 sacred mountains. And so, where my relatives were in the center sacred mountain, and she was this lady was caretaker of that sacred mountain, and I have to, I was blessed to go up there once or twice. So this is a song of the earth. The earth is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. Below the east, the earth, its face toward the east. The top of its head is beautiful. The sole of its feet are beautiful. Its feet, they are beautiful. Its legs, they are beautiful. Its body, it is beautiful. Its chest, its breast, its head feather, they are beautiful. Below the west, the sky, it is beautiful. Its face toward the west. The top of its head is beautiful. The sole of its feet are beautiful. Its feet, they are beautiful. Its legs, they are beautiful. Its body, it is beautiful. Its chest, its breast, its head feather, they are beautiful. Below the east, the dawn, its face toward the east. The top of its head is beautiful. The sole of its feet are beautiful. Its feet, they are beautiful. Its legs, they are beautiful. Its body, it is beautiful. Its chest, its breast, the head feather, they are beautiful. Below the west, the afterglow of sundown, the face toward the west is beautiful. Below the east, white corn, its face toward the east is beautiful. Below the south, blue corn, its face toward the south is beautiful. Below the west, yellow corn, its face toward the west is beautiful. Below the north, varicolored, its face toward the north is beautiful. Below the east, Saharai, its face toward the east is beautiful. Below the west, Bahe Yoshoni, its face toward the west is beautiful. Below the east, corn pollen, its face toward the east is beautiful. Below the west, the corn beetle, its face toward the west is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. The earth is beautiful. I have the 5 elements here, and I'm going to do a little combination Sufi practice that it's a starting practice with the Sufis for every day, taking in the 5 elements. So we always start with the earth, and I myself brought a rock with lots of little rocks in it to represent the earth, and as well as my own personal little stone that somebody gave me, and the earth breath is in through our nose and out through our nose, and we have beautiful mountains behind Mel and Paula, so we can imagine any place that will connect us and ground us to Mother Earth. In through our nose, out through our nose. And we're also earth, our bones. The earth provides stability, groundedness. So if you're feeling that, feel that connection. In Tibetan Buddhism, these elements are also used for healing as well. So whenever you feel ungrounded, find a good place on the earth that you can lay down or sit and breathe into your body, through your bones, all the way to the center of the earth. Feel that solidness throughout your body. Unmovable, unshakable, totally present. And we go through the element of the water. Give, again, thanks to the water. And in through our nose, and out through our mouth. Imagine a lake or the ocean or the water in your being. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Learn not to be afraid to cry and let some of that water in our bodies out into passion and love, even in times of great catastrophes. It's okay. Through your nose, out through your mouth. Peaceful, flowing. Feel the water in your muscles. Move there to fire, energy, our blood, our heart, in through our mouth and out through our mouth. Sorry, in through our mouth, out through our nose. circulation in our body. Feel the warmth and fire in our hearts, a special place in our hearts. Allow that warmth and heat to fill our bodies. We move to air, flexibility. That's in through our mouth and out through our mouth. I use instruments like the feather. Again, it's alive. Feel that air going through our whole being. Every pore, every space in our body. Open it up. Feel the breeze internally, moving through each and every one of us. We come back to our natural breath, but just a little deeper. And some traditions, this is the ether breath, just the normal breath, but just a little deeper, like a normal breath. In other traditions, it's space. And this last one contains all the other ones. So feel, experience that emptiness, that space where we all connect. Where we are one with each other's beauty, each other's heart. Thank you. Uh, my wish is that you feel more connected as you walk out on this earth. Feel the beauty of all living things. I was inspired by this leaf I found in my backyard speaking to me about today. So thank you. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, Michael. I don't know why, but you're bringing up the elements brought to my mind the four thoughts in Buddhism, the four thoughts that turn the mind, and they came to mind. So I'll just go through them, and number one, of course, fits perfectly with what you just said. The uniqueness, the beauty, the gift of being born in human form. And number two is impermanence. That's also a gift. I mean, impermanence is hard, but if it weren't for impermanence, what, you know, what would there be? You know, and then there's karma, cause and effect. Everything that we do is a result of causes and conditions, and everything we do or say or think will have an impact. And finally, samsara. It seems odd to include the cycle of suffering. But again, if it weren't for suffering, how would we know happiness? So again, thank you, Michael.
That was beautiful, Mel. I like your attitude.
Just my impromptu take on the four thoughts. That's part of my practice, and it's part of what brought me to a life of joy, especially that first one. I mean, when I say that, when I do that, I happen to have a window in front of me, and I look out, and there's a big tree across the street. So I'm grateful for right now for the green leaves. But in the winter, I'm grateful for the brown. I mean, whatever it is, it's life. It's wonderful. You know, I've never understood why people go, oh, that tree's so ugly now. It's all, you know, it's winter time and it doesn't have any leaves. You know, it's beautiful for what it is.
That's right.
So, any questions or comments will be seen by us, the panelists. The participants won't see each other's. Paula, do you have a last question for me?
Well, my last question for you, how would you like to, again, a quote saying, each being's pure awareness, its Buddha nature is always present, always accessible. So as we kind of conclude some of these things, what would you share? What would you like to most share as we come to the end, as we, you know, as we share the New Middle Way, your book? What would you like most to share?
You know, you somewhere earlier on you talked about that phrase, filament of my soul. that the book is a filament of my soul, and of course I would share that. But again, the soul is a kind of a weird concept in Buddhism. Technically speaking, we don't like to talk about a soul because the Buddha kind of thought about Atman as was the idea of a soul at the time, and he didn't buy into Atman. But it doesn't mean we don't have a pure Buddha nature. And that's the soul that I'm referring to. And what I would like to share is for everybody to know that that's here and present in each of us. It's it's been compared to a pure lake, and we each have our little cupful of that pure water from that lake. So in a sense, we share the same essence, but we don't all have the same essence. We all have our cup of shared water. I hope I've expressed that well, but it's the Buddha nature is something we all share, but we don't have the same Buddha nature. We all share our cup of Buddha nature.
Beautiful.
And as traditional in Vajrayana Buddhism, why don't we dedicate any merit we may have gained or generated to the benefit of all. May you all be well and happy.